ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the virtual open house kickoff of the Admissions Frequently Asked Questions. We are really excited to go over some details with you guys on some common occurrences and some common questions that come up via phone call, via chat, via email, anytime someone is interacting with our team. So we have three presenters here today. To my left is Stephen Matatix. He is a senior admissions specialist who has worked on some really amazing projects for us.
Hello, everybody.
My name is Kira Koderick. I'm one of the admissions team leaders. And to my right, I have the assistant manager, Sky Reinbold, who is going to go over outcomes with us and provide a lot of really in-depth and insightful feedback.
Hello.
We are going to get started and just go over very quickly our outline of our topics here today. We're going to start by discussing licensing and accreditation. We'll talk about student support. We're going to discuss transfer credits for both high school and for college. We're going to talk about your financial concerns and questions, different types of payment options that can be set up and different arrangements that can be made. And we're also going to talk about a focus on outcomes for all of our students. So we'll get right into it. Now, Stephen had actually done some additional work for us on accreditation and licensing. Stephen, would you care to share a brief synopsis or a definition of accrediting and of licensing bodies?
Sure. So both accrediting bodies and licensing bodies have authority within their relevant or prospective jurisprudence, let's say. So those are usually some kind of academic boards. So that we are licensed through a couple of different licensing for both our secondary school and then our post-secondary school for our college. And then we're accredited nationally, regionally, internationally, or through a special accreditation relevant to those particular bodies. And it's just a way to say that we're allowed to operate, that our credentials are recognized, and with the accreditation that they will be recognized for the purposes of post-graduation.
Yeah, so that's a perfect way to summarize it. Thank you. Now, as you can see here before you, Penn Foster High School is both nationally and regionally accredited. We do have a variety of accrediting bodies that we do work with, and we do have review us periodically. In addition, Penn Foster Career School follows suit, and it has those same accreditations, as well as both being licensed by the Pennsylvania State Board of Private Licensed Schools based on our operating offices here in Scranton, Pennsylvania. Penn Foster College is a little bit different because Penn Foster College itself is based out of Arizona. So Arizona does license Penn Foster College. However, it holds the same national accreditation. So you would be able to use it at degree or any type of classes you would have taken here with us in the same way you would use any other college or any other institution's degree.
Also with our college, it is also licensed through NC-SARA, which means that it meets certain academic rigors and things which other colleges look at, and it's part of a reciprocity agreement, so we can accept graduates from other colleges and vice versa, as well as are able to transfer credits in or out pending evaluation policy, both ours and other colleges, of course.
So with that basic already discussed, let's move on to something a little more specific. Now, as you're seeing on your display here, everyone, you do see that accreditation by program can also vary. We do have some programs that have additional accreditation just based on their nature. So for example, veterinary tech, pharmacy tech, that sort of thing. There are actually additional webinars this week for the virtual house on programs of that nature. So I'm sure you guys will be able to register and hear a little bit more, or you can call and ask us and we can go into further accreditation details for you there. Moving right along, we're going to next talk about financial questions and concerns that you may have, and just in general, the enrollment process.
So essentially, obviously, there can be different types of financial questions and concerns based on your situation, the value of what you're getting, which value is basically a way of saying so much quality or quantity substance per, let's say, a financial investment. So something with higher value is very affordable and it packs a lot in terms of what's included in it. So I kind of think about this as there's three categories of types of questions that you could ask, and that is, how is our tuition calculated? So how do we come up with our pricing based on the value? And there's actually a lot more that's included that we don't even charge for, and I'll explain that briefly and how it breaks down by our different schools. Then also the types of financial assistance. Do we accept financial aid? Is there something separate called financial assistance, and what we can take an offer for that? And then just also general financial support. So after you're enrolled, what we do to help you out financially based on your situation, whether you run into a lot of money and you want to pay it in full, or whether it's you need to put it on a monthly payment plan. So for our tuition, essentially with our high school, our career school, and our college, they're all slightly different. With our high school, right now, basically, it's valued at about $50 per course. So typically we have like a full pay discount, in which case you're paying a little bit less than that. You actually get like some of the tuition discounted, less than that $50 per course, even with all 22 courses, including the orientation, and the registration fee gets waived. With our monthly auto pay, that'll usually be that cost per course, and which means also that if courses transfer in, that cost is going to be prorated, plus the registration fee, and then maybe a final remaining little finance charge depending on, it's basically allowing us to give you monthly payments at 0% interest for flexible amounts, so that whether you pay it off early or whether you stretch out your payments, it's going to be the same cost. So that finance charge is just a flat charge for that. And then depending on these promotions, that finance charge with the monthly auto pay could end up being reduced or even eliminated, and part of the other tuition even discounted as well. And then the full pay is just our monthly manual pay, and that pretty much combines those three factors: the cost per course, as well as the registration fee and the finance charge for collecting pay over time. And that covers everything else. So there's not a separate shipping fee for everything that, even if you do choose printed materials for the few courses that do come with those as an alternative option, even with the unlimited instructor access and support, even with sending you your diploma at the end, anything like that, there's not going to be a separate fee for that. That's all included. With the career school, it varies depending on the value of the program and what's comes with it. But typically, usually you'll see that it'll be about maybe $2 for the way that we determine that the average regular price would be about maybe $2 per contact hour, or about $20 per CEU, which stands for Continuing Education Unit. And then in addition to that, typically we add a registration fee, as well as anything else, like a finance charge for electing to pay over time. And then depending on the promotions that we run throughout the year, paying in full may get you below that, where all the fees are waived and the tuition's even discounted, even at the cost per contact hour.
Stephen, is there any other things that you can think of that we could talk about that would be a benefit for a student paying in full other than just saving money?
Yeah, so another benefit too is if you graduate early, you don't have to worry about, let's say, paying a lump sum to get your diploma, certificate, degree. All of that will be triggered automatically. Whereas if you are on a monthly payment plan and you complete it academically prior to paying in full, then you basically have to pay the remaining balance if you want to get your transcript sent, as well as your diploma or certificate or degree shipped. And then for the college, basically we charge $79 per credit. And so a 3-credit course, for instance, would be like $237. A 1-credit course would be $79, of course. And then for the first semester, we have a registration fee and or a finance charge, and it works very similar to the other models. For the subsequent semesters, it's just the flat cost per credit plus a flat $65 shipping fee versus the registration fee, and the shipping fee is usually less. So that pretty much explains the discounts. For our college, we usually have some great discounts, which will be discounted prices on the first semester and or subsequent semesters. And at certain times of the year, we also have like the final semester at no cost. So like if it's a 4-semester degree, which would be the equivalent of a 2-year degree in a traditional brick and mortar school, you get that 4th semester, which usually saves you somewhere in the ballpark of like, between $1,400 something to, or even $1,200 something to a couple thousand. at no cost, provided you have your first 30 credits paid for. If it's the associate's degree, if it's a bachelor's, you have to have your first 60 credits paid for. So keep in mind too, if you have credits transfer, which Sky will be going over, then you may end up not even having like 30 credits in the first few semesters, or 60 credits in the first, let's say, 7 semesters. Although for the bachelor's, you're always almost pretty much going to have the 60 credits, even if you have courses transferring against, let's say, the first 7 semesters. So then with financial aid, just moving on to the next header there, financial aid really breaks down into a few different categories. That includes things like scholarships, as well as grants, and that's typically awarded to prospective students who are looking to enroll in a college most of the time, although there can even be like high school grants or even career school grants. As long as the student meets certain criteria and the academic institution meets certain criteria. So from a regulatory standpoint, we do share information about financial aid with everyone who enrolls, even though we can't process traditional financial aid for any financial aid that requires us to be a Title IV school. And here's the pros and cons of that. So the con is obviously you can't have like a full scholarship pay for your college degree with us. On the flip side though, that means you won't have any of the repercussions of, let's say, financial aid. So I'm not a lawyer or a tax advisor, so take everything I say with a grain of salt. But just going off anecdotal experience, because financial aid is a federal subsidy versus, let's say, financial assistance or tuition assistance, that may affect your tax return, for instance. So you can ask your tax advisor about that. Whereas if you get tuition assistance, that usually won't affect your tax return, like how much of a credit you're eligible for. Also, with in-house financial assistance where you're making monthly payments versus, let's say, paying back either the government or student loan, your monthly payment may not be adjusted based on your income. So even if you get a raise, you can still pay the same monthly payments that you already agreed to pay with us. So just from my experience, and just take it with a grain of salt, for every college experience I've had up until Penn Foster College, which I'm currently taking the associate's degree in marketing, I would choose financial assistance or tuition assistance 10 times out of 10 over financial aid. And that's why I'm kind of glad for that. And then even just on a kind of like a side benefit to that is that you can take our program self-paced, whether you go at a less than part-time pace or you graduate early, or even if you maybe come out to, let's say, like a part-time pace or a full-time pace, but you choose what months off in the calendar year that you have off, or when you put in the time per week. You're not going to be stuck on a school's instructor-led schedule, and just because that school has to meet that Title IV requirement to get financial aid. So yes, you can take advantage of our financial assistance, like our promotions and discounts, as well as other tuition assistance third-party vendors like crowdsourcing and so forth, and not have it affect your tax time, your tax credit, your monthly payments, your credit history per se, or even the ability to study at your own pace.
Yeah, and just to add, just in general, in my experience, traditional routes of going to school don't really work for everyone, and that includes the financial aid part. So for those of you who are prospective students or prospective parents, I should say, when you're thinking about sending your child to college, there's a lot of juggling that happens, whether it's, worrying about co-signing on a loan or taking out any kind of loan yourself. Sometimes you can run into some really, really, really detailed and structured problems, or just in general financial concerns. With our programs, you can definitely have a little bit of shall we say, flexible payment schedule, and you don't have those high interest rates. You don't have to worry about co-signing. Now, that's just an added bonus. Yeah.
Yeah. So, so Kira brings up a really good point with our interest-free financing. And this is just more of a financial management strategic point. Some people would prefer to have something with no fee and interest, knowing that they're going to be able to pay it off in well less than under a year's time. So I'll just throw out an example. Let's say you have a 12% APR on your credit card, and you're basically making the minimum monthly payments for the first 6 months. So you're not really prorating interest that much, and or maybe you can't really compound interest on a credit card, because most credit cards minimum monthly payment requirement has to include a percentage of the base balance plus the interest accrued that month. But so let's say you do that for 6 months and then you pay it in full. So because you only carry it for half of the year, you're going to estimate half of that APR. So if your APR is like 24%, you pay 12%. Whereas let's say with our finance charge, and let's say you plan to pay off everything that you're rolling over those 4 semesters in, let's say, 6 years. Well, that finance charge then becomes divided by that many payments, and your flat finance charge may have a corresponding APR that's at a very low rate, like a few percent, just because you're doing it at 0% interest. And you may not want to feel the pressure of like, well, I'm accruing interest every month. Maybe I'll pay it off earlier, maybe I'll drag it out, and I already know what I'm committed to financially. So then the only other point I wanted to go over with that middle category is, essentially what like some average examples of our recommended down payment and monthly payment might look like. So the college is obviously the most expensive, but with that, you can even get started for somewhere between $10 and $75 down if we're running it over the phone, or other promotion where you can have your down pay matched up to $75. Then it's like you're almost getting your first 2 credits paid for at half the cost. Give or take $4 there. Also, with our recommended monthly payment amounts, even if you're just doing like $79 to double that per month, that's about 1/3 of what most students are paying on their salary. Well, let's say they're popular, privatized, subsidized loans. I didn't know if I was allowed to say that. So, but yeah, they're paying like $500 a month on average.
True.
So whereas with us, even if you're paying $158, you might think that that's tight and that you might want to go lower. And yeah, maybe you're allowed to go lower on those monthly payments. But if you're paying about 1.5 credits per month, you're going to be at a much better pace, and you're still paying 1/3 of what other places are charging you. And that monthly payment with them, that's 3 times as much, is only covering 1 credit versus like 1.5, because those other colleges' credit is maybe 3 times the cost as ours is. And then with our in-house services, that also includes things like, that you can flex your payment, you can pay extra, you can, usually financial services will work with you. I can't, 100% guarantee what your exact situation will look like, but I've known examples where somebody had, an emergency and they had to remove asbestos from their basement or replace a utility. And so they allowed them to do like half of a monthly payment, even though it's lower than the usual minimum required. And that's because they had paid so much up until that point. Or maybe they were able to defer a payment, a month or 2. So usually there's like a certain number of times that they can do that per semester or per year, depending on your program and depending on your situation and depending on what financial services can do. And then with the asynchronous pacing, you can essentially either earn more credits before you even paid for them, or you could pay ahead of time and then earn them as you go. So you're not like stuck where you're locked, like because you've only paid for 3 credits and you've taken 3 credits and you're not allowed to open your next course until you make your next monthly payment. No, you can basically earn the credit academically versus pay for it financially at an asynchronous pace.
Yeah, I think one thing to just kind of recap and add that's really important, anytime you have a scenario or a situation, especially when it comes to the finances, we do have a really good and in-depth volume of student support. So parents, students alike, if you call and communicate to us that there is an issue or a scenario has come up that is, as any of us have probably encountered in life, just something completely unexpected and, unprepared for, just we have support. And there are webinars throughout this entire week on different types of support we have. So financial services could absolutely provide you a more specific breakdown if something were to arise after your enrollment is completed.
So then, the third category, which is just the support and resources for financial challenges, kind of draws from those first 2, that we do have all the different types of discounts and the things that financial services can do. So like even if you missed an opportunity post-enrollment, sometimes there are situations where we can make it right. Like let's say you inherited some money or you won the lottery and you paid the down payment, but you really want to pay in full. And it's within the first, 10 days within that, trial period where you can ask for a full refund. Usually they'll allow you to pay the difference to get that full pay price. Or for the subsequent semesters for our college, there may be the occasional coupon that'll get advertised to you through your email saying like, hey, if you pay off the remaining 15 credits from this semester, then we'll give you a 10% discount on the remaining balance, things like that. Also like the deferred payments, like I mentioned. And then you have a bunch of complementary materials that you don't even pay for. So that's including textbooks, student portal resources, career services, including the resume builder, the virtual library, which has links to 8 databases, which include, literally without exaggeration, tens of thousands of free ebooks, as well as the other alumni resources and the student community board resources. And if you guys have any questions about any of this segment or previous segment or future segment, feel free to throw it in the chat.
Thanks, Stephen. All right, so I think the next section here is our evaluations, and we spoke briefly about that at the beginning of the webinar here. So we have something, and this isn't something that we've always had. This is something that started about, what would you say, 4 or 5 years ago?
I would say probably closer to 5, because it was established by the time I signed on.
Yeah, so what we used to do is we would be happy to take any credits from a previous high school or a previous college, but we would ask that you enrolled first. And some of the problems with that are that if you want to pay in full, you have to pay the full amount and then be refunded. Or you have to make a first payment, get started, and then wait for your official transcripts to come in. We would do the evaluation, and then we would let you know how much your tuition was reduced. So someone had a grand idea, and it was a fantastic idea. One of the best ideas that has come since I've been here is,
for sure,
for someone, if you want to know how many credits we're going to transfer in, which is how much are you going to have to do to actually graduate the program and become a high school graduate, we actually now allow you to send in an unofficial copy of your transcripts, and you can do that. You could take a picture of your phone, you could scan it, you could go to the school and it could be the transcript that they handed you, or it could be the one that you've had laying around since you were in high school. You could speak with our admission specialists. They could set you up. You could send those transcripts to that admission specialist. They forward it on to our transcript department, and that transcript department, what they do is they create a target graduation plan. So that target graduation plan, that's going to show how many credits we're going to be able to transfer in, also which courses we're going to be able to transfer in, and then most importantly, how many credits and how many courses and what courses you have to complete to actually become a high school graduate. So what that allows you to do is allows you to save money, so you're able to actually pay in full. So let's say you send us your unofficial transcripts, produce the target graduation plan, and we say that we're going to grant you 10 credits from your previous high school. So currently with the offer that we have now, we're going to grant you $50 per transfer credit. So instead of paying the full tuition up front, we're actually going to deduct that $500, which is your 10 credits times the $50 off per credit that we're currently offering. And we're going to take that $500 right off the bat. So instead of enrolling and paying in full and actually receiving a refund, you'll be able to do the full pay up front, save the most money, not have to worry about payments. We can send out your books all at once. You don't have to wait for them to come in as you progress through the course. And then you get to enroll and take advantage of that discount right up front, as opposed to enrolling, taking advantage of that discount in the form of a refund. So that's been a really, really big help. And it's complimentary, so anyone can do it. I know a lot of parents are very interested in that. A lot of parents are pulling their children out of school, out of high school. They want them to attend an online program. And then this allows them to not only save money, but find out exactly what their son or their daughter needs to do to finish high school and become a graduate. So we do that for high school. We also do that for college. So I'm going to pass it on to Kira real quick here, and she's going to kind of go over that process with you for college.
Yeah, so for college evaluations, they work much in the same way. Now, I guess the biggest difference that you can describe this as between a college evaluation and a high school pre-evaluation is the format of the transcripts we're using. In high school, we make the exception prior to enrollment to use what's called an unofficial copy, as Sky had mentioned. Now in college, since we're dealing with college records, we're dealing with official number of credits obtained that are interchangeable towards a degree of certifying of higher level education. We do have to work with what's called an official transcript. So just to reiterate and to kind of recap, an official transcript needs to be a signed, sealed transcript. It would be presented to you as a student in an envelope with the school's letterhead or the school's stamp of approval, essentially the seal of the school that you had previously attended. In addition, once the transcript is opened, it does have to be on cardstock of some form. Each school has a little bit of their own different setup. Some just have different colored paper and their seal again at the bottom. Some have it on different background settings, but again, the seal is always the most important thing we're looking for, in addition to the signature of a school official, usually found in the bottom left or the bottom right-hand corner of the page. So with a college evaluation, the same thing as Sky was saying, an admissions specialist would be able to set this evaluation up for you prior to your enrollment. Essentially, as a prospective student at that point in time, you would have to share some of your information with us, such as your name, contact info, mailing information as well, and your date of birth. That's really as personal of information as you'll need to provide in this particular part of the process. So from there, you would be able to send us your transcript. Now, since it's official, it would have to be mailed, or you could use a third-party service that provides electronic transcripts in the form of official documents. For those of you who are not familiar with it or maybe don't have as much experience with it, the most common, I would say by far, is parchment, with a very close second being ScriptSafe. Would you guys agree with me there?
Yep.
Yeah, either eScriptSafe or maybe National Student Clearinghouse.
Yep, that's another big one too. Yep.
Yeah, so I think those are your top three really, but there are a lot of different services out there, and essentially it's considered an official document because of the security measures that are taken to protect said document. Usually, for those of you who don't know, it's a two-part process where the first email indicates a security password of some kind, whether it's a passcode or a password or a phrase, but it is emailed, I should say, excuse me, directly to the admissions specialist or to whomever it is they've directed you to email. In some cases, we can provide a direct email address to have them processed. And then the second email is actually the document itself, which is, as you probably have guessed, password protected. In that scenario, then we're able to review the document because we can verify it's come from a source that has not been contaminated or manipulated, I should say, in any shape or form. Not saying that anybody out there would ever doctor up their transcripts, but we have to take precautions to keep our license and to keep our accreditation as a school, and that's a standard anywhere you may attend throughout the country. So once the evaluation itself has been completed, now it usually is a few days process because just of the sheer volume of evaluations we're doing. Also, you're going to want to allow for turnaround time for communication to be established on what can and cannot transfer and why. So once the evaluation is completed, the admissions specialist you work with, whether it is he or she, will email you a copy of the evaluation results. And we do generally follow up with you via phone call as well. So depending on what you had previously discussed with the admissions specialist you're speaking to or going to be speaking with, you may indicate a certain time to call. You may indicate an email preference. That's fine. Regardless, we are going to let you know what the results are. And then, just so you're aware, they are going to show not only the credit transfer, but also the financial reduction. And as Stephen had mentioned before, any college program transfer credits are $79 per credit off. So just for example's sake, if you have that $729 and you have a 3-credit class transfer in, essentially we're taking $79 times the 3 credit, and that is your tuition reduction. Now, once the evaluation is completed, you of course will go over the details in more detail. That doesn't really sound the greatest, but that's the easiest way to put it. And just in general, your admissions specialist is going to kind of guide you through what additional info we would need from you in order to complete your enrollment. Just so it's out there for you guys, the entire program setting, all programs across high school, career school, and college are open enrollment. So you guys can begin at any particular point in time. You don't have to wait until your eval is done. You don't have to wait until your official transcripts arrive. You can begin earlier. That is entirely up to you and your preference. So once you have completed your enrollment, then your evaluation results will be updated on your student portal, and you will physically see the number of credits you've transferred along with the classes. And actually there's a new setup that allows you to also visibly see the remaining classes within the semester, just kind of at a quick glance on your student homepage.
Yeah, so if you're thinking about enrolling in one of our college programs soon, as to Kira's point, if you want all of that pre-evaluation completed, communicated, and worked out with your admission specialist, then I do recommend calling us sooner rather than later, just because, that'll give us the couple weeks before whatever your intended start date is. And it's it would be better to have more of a cushion than maybe not enough cushion.
Absolutely. And we do have a special phone number for you guys to call if anyone is interested in calling, even tonight, if you would like, now that it's kind of the end of the workday here and you have a little bit of free time. Maybe your husband or wife is making dinner. Maybe you just ordered out a pizza. If you have a few minutes to give us a call, we're going to share the phone number again at the end of the presentation, but I'll give it to you guys now as well. It's 1-866-833-5103. So you guys can give us a call at any time. We are in admissions until 11 p.m. Eastern, Monday through Friday. So the big stressor there is Eastern time, Pacific time, Mountain time, anything like that. You guys generally may see a different little bit of call volume if you're calling earlier versus later. That's really just more of a convenience for you that we have those later hours. We're also in on the weekends, which is the little bit of the difference for admissions. So you guys can give us a call on Saturdays and Sundays too, generally speaking, until 10 p.m.
Yeah, one final thing I want to add about the evaluations is if anyone is on the fence about enrolling, I know that it's a big decision, especially if you're a little bit older. But don't be discouraged to at least set up a pre-evaluation. I mean, give us a call. We have plenty of admission specialists here ready to help, and set up a pre-evaluation. It doesn't matter if you went to school 20 years ago. Set up the pre-evaluation, get us your transcripts, and we'll see what we can do for you. I think sometimes it could be a lot more daunting if you have to do 22 courses to graduate high school, but if we can get your transcripts in, you might only have to complete 15, or you might only have to complete 10, or sometimes even 6.
Right.
It's going to be a lot easier of a decision. It's going to be a less of a jump. So don't be discouraged.
Absolutely.
Now for college, there is a little bit of a time frame that we have to kind of go by for college credits. So computer courses, if they're older than 10 years, we can't take them. But
science classes are the other big
like
ones.
But yeah, but for high school, I mean, there really isn't as strict of a requirement for age. So if anyone's on the fence on enrolling, at least set up that pre-evaluation and kind of see where you stand, because I think that's going to be a big motivator to you getting started.
Absolutely.
I had someone who their high school credits were like 20 years old, and they thought they were going to have to start from scratch with us, and they were even like almost thinking about giving up. And I was like, let's try to get your transcripts. And they're like, I don't even think that my school has them anymore. And like we called over together, and lo and behold, they had the transcripts. They were able to email them over. This person had 16 credits transfer in. They were able to graduate within 2 months after enrolling, and they only had to pay a couple $100. So
generally
it's a great
speaking,
example.
it's a phenomenal example, and it's a great service for anyone. So generally speaking, you guys can contact the former school you had attended if you have questions regarding your transcripts or to obtain a copy of transcripts. I think another just key factor to stress is the importance of obtaining an official transcript, because at any point in time, whether it is a college evaluation you're looking to pursue or a high school evaluation, you do just need to provide us the official documentation once enrolled, for sure.
Yep. Yeah, and I usually even stress and recommend, like, if you don't already have the unofficials, just ask the school to mail us the officials, because we can use that for both the pre-evaluation and post-enrollment.
Right.
And that way, within minutes of enrolling, we could have someone already go in and adjust your portal rather than waiting maybe a couple of weeks still.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good point.
And I think this kind of segues right into our next topic really well, actually. So once you have completed your evaluation and you do enroll, you're able to pursue, as we said, the classes that we've determined you physically need to complete because you may not have taken them before, or you had not completed them before. Obviously, once you've completed the classes that are required, you're able to move on. And in most cases, you do complete your degree or your diploma program more quickly. So focusing on the outcome, well, once you've graduated, a lot of times we have questions regarding, the what then, the what after. So I guess the easiest way to really summarize it is to just go over exactly what happens once you're done and once you've completed your program. So Sky is actually going to talk to us a little bit more about our outcomes and what happens next.
Yeah, so one thing that I've seen Penn Foster as a whole kind of focus on a lot more in the last at least 3 or 4 years here is outcomes, as Kira just said. So I'm going to go over a few things that I have personally noticed, some that I've actually been a part of, that just really shows that, we're not just concerned about getting students in the door. We're very concerned about getting students, per se out the door as a graduate. So one thing that Kira, Steven, and myself participated in this year was the graduation ceremony. So the graduation ceremony was back in June, and we started that graduation ceremony, 3 or 4 years ago?
Yeah, this was our fourth one.
And the first time we had it, it was up in like our cafe, and there was probably 20 graduates there. And then the next year we had it in what we call like a flex space, and there was probably, I don't know, 100 graduates.
I'd say maybe 100, maybe a couple over 100.
Yeah. And then the year after that, which was last year, we had it at a local college in their auditorium, and I think there was 250 graduates. And with those 250 graduates, there was, I think, 750 family members. So there was about 1,000 people there. And then just this past June here, and as far as I'm aware, that's going to be our event space for the foreseeable future. We actually had it in an arena. In this arena, there is arena football that's played there. There's ice hockey that's played in there. There's concerts that are there. There's monster truck shows that are there. So it's a pretty massive arena. And I think there were probably upwards of 1,000 graduates this year.
Yeah, upwards of 1,000 graduates, and with family and friends attending as well. I think we had close to 3,000 people.
Yeah, it was incredible. So the reason I bring that up is because, you know, the team that has to do with the graduation ceremony, it's gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And it was just a remarkable experience to be a part of. You know, it really kind of solidifies why we come in and we do what we do every single day in the admissions department. You know, we speak with prospective students and we guide them through what their needs are and what our programs offer and what their goals are. And then, you know, come June every year, we get to see sort of the culmination of all of our efforts. You know, all of Steven's efforts from being on the phone, all of Kira's efforts from being a team leader and motivating her team of admission specialists. And then, you know, myself in a management position, sort of overseeing all admission specialists. It really is like the culmination of what we do. It's why we come in. It's why we do what we do. So it's fantastic that ceremony has just gotten bigger and bigger and bigger. And I'm sure in June of 2019, it'll probably be even bigger than it was this year.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing. And you know, graduation is really, really important. You know, it's easy to just start the program and just, you know, make a small down payment and not get started. And I think we all can understand that it does take a lot of motivation. It takes a lot of courage, a lot of grit, a lot of determination and discipline to take a program like Penn Foster's. But, you know, when you do have all those qualities and you really focus on your studies and, you know, make that a commitment and put that ahead of a lot of things, then, you know, you get to be a part of that graduation ceremony. You get to be a graduate. So that's been an awesome experience. And I look forward to next year's. So another thing I want to focus on is one thing that we have done is we've not only gone back and sort of looked at our programs, the content of the programs, what certifications those programs prepare our students for. And what I've seen is that we really, when we do go into those older programs, we really look at what can we change in this program to make it best for when a student does graduate. So, you know, we have a medical coding and billing program, and we changed that around. We made it more aligned to industry standard certifications. We give a voucher for industry standard certification. So that's just one example. And then one example of an older program that we've kind of went back in and we've revamped and made it, you know, more cohesive to a graduate and for that student to get a career and to get a certification and things like that. You know, we've also updated our locksmith program. So our professional locksmith program that was just recently updated to include home security. So, you know, it's 2018 now, and a lot of people have home security systems, and that is becoming a part of a locksmith job. Is if you're going to be a locksmith, you have to know how to work on and install home security systems. So we went back in, we revamped that whole program, we put it on our new portal style, we added home security, and now graduates of that program are going to be much more better off once they graduate and they go into the field of locksmithing. One of the new programs that we just launched recently was our pharmacy technician program, pharmacy technician professional program. So that program, it's similar to our pharmacy technician program, but it does have a required externship, and the regular pharmacy technician does not have a required externship now. So that's a really big thing. You want to make sure that If it's a hands-on field that you have an externship to get that hands-on experience. You also not only get that hands-on experience, you build a portfolio, you get to do it at a CVS or a Walgreens, so there's a potential that you can get hired on after you finish your externship. We added a lot more virtual labs, so you get a lot more practice as you're kind of going through the program. And then also we have that candidate status with the ASHP. So the ASHP is the American Society of Hospital Pharmacists, I believe. So we are currently in candidate status. What that will potentially do for graduates of that program is it's just going to open up more opportunities. More employers recognize programs or students or graduates of programs with the ASHP accreditation. And again, it comes down to outcomes. We went in, we looked at a program, we improved on it. We still offer that old program, but we also launched this new program that is, again, going to give much more opportunities to graduates to that program. And then another example I have here is virtual assistant. So that's just another field that is sort of up and coming. A lot of people are looking for virtual assistants. A lot of people are working from home, and that's an opportunity that you have with the virtual assistant. So those are just a few examples of some not only new programs, but old programs that we kind of went in and we revamped. And, you know, to me, the sort of the motive of that revamping of those programs, as well as launching those new programs, was to give our students better opportunities and better outcomes when they become a graduate of those programs. So another thing that I have here is partnerships. So I'm not going to go into any specific partnerships, but what I've seen is we are partnering with a lot of companies, and we partner with those companies and we help that company and that company's employers or employees, excuse me. So, you know, we offer our programs to employers to offer to their employees, and that can do one of two things. It can strengthen not only that employee's skills on that job, or really it's just good for the employees. You know, it doesn't have to sometimes be a program that is relative to what that person, that employee is currently doing at that time. It could be something that is just really sort of professional growth for them, or, you know, just education, just knowledge that, you know, it may or may not help them in their current position. But, you know, that's great for the employer, you know, because it's a great thing to offer their employees. It's also good for those employees because as an employee of that organization that offers, you know, education through Penn Foster, they're going to get, you know, you're going to get to take those programs.
Here just threw in the chat, by the way, that you can find more information on the ASHP or the American Society of Health System Pharmacists by speaking to one of our admission specialists about the pharmacy programs at Penn Foster Career School and College.
Definitely.
Sorry, Sky.
Yeah, no problem. And then lastly here, just workforce development. So we have a lot of non-traditional programs that, you know, the things like, let me see here, there's things like linemen, welder, or programs for linemen, for welders, for electricians. And those are things that we do offer through a little bit of a subset of the admissions department. But you can call into admissions. You can talk to us about it. We can get you to the appropriate department within admissions to talk to you about that. But, and I'll be brief and I'll end on this. That's just another, you know, it helps those employees in skilled trade. It again is something that they can take and they can improve on their skills to help better their career outcomes. So although we offer a ton of programs that are meant to sort of create a new outcome, our workforce development, our skilled trade courses, they also help strengthen an employee's skills that they already have, but necessarily not. Maybe they can branch off and, you know, they need a certain skill or a certain education or a certain piece of knowledge to kind of move up to be promoted, to get into a better paying position within that same sort of skilled trade field. So that's another thing that I've seen a lot of focus on. And that just kind of rounds out how I feel like we are really, really going down that path of outcomes. And it's just a really great time to be here.
It absolutely is. Yeah.
And believe it or not, I also have had people call in about our workforce development or industrial skills courses just because maybe there's no other online school that's offering, you know, teaching how to learn these, and they just need it for personal enrichment, like because they have a home, you know, like a home improvement project, or, you know, maybe like a special project where they want to create something for their backyard or whatever. So even if you're not currently with an employer or working in an industry, these are skill sets that are still available for you. Also for our new programs, I'm also currently taking the virtual assistant course. I'm almost done with it. So if you want to speak to an admissions specialist who has a firsthand experience with the new virtual assistant program, feel free to ask for Steve at extension 2751. If I can throw in a shameless plug.
Well, you did, so I think you can.
I guess so. That works. So I think one of the important things to just kind of recap on as we're finishing up here today, admissions as a whole, there are a lot of different umbrellas that you may end up having to work with or speaking to. There are different departments within admissions itself, depending on if you are using any of, as Stephen mentioned earlier, those third parties. If you are, as Sky mentioned, going through a workforce development scenario where your employer is looking for you to, in some way, shape, or form, add on a skill set or improve upon the skill set you've already developed. Whether it's a quick 5-minute conversation or whether we're on the phone with you or your family members, your friends for an hour, a half an hour, an hour and a half, we've done it all, we've seen it all. Generally speaking, the questions that we can't answer right off the top of our heads, we do have support staff on hand that we can in depth go over, and it may be a very short hold time for you, but we do go over in detail everything that you ask, and if we don't have the information, we'll get you the information. So
Yep.
We do have this, as I said again a little bit earlier, we do have this phone number set up for you guys to give us a call. By all means, please feel free to do so whenever you feel that you have everything together, or even if you just started to look into a program. Again, the phone number that's listed there on your screen is 1-866-833-5103.
And if you have to make up a jingle to memorize that, I recommend something like 866-833-5103 or whatever. Whatever works.
Whatever works for you guys. But this webinar has been recorded, and we will be sharing, as I said, in additional webinars throughout the week for the open house, more program details, more program-specific accreditations and affiliations, and just in general, and more details about Penn Foster. So I hope you guys enjoyed our presentation today. Everybody have a great night, and we are officially signing off.
Yeah, thanks so much for joining us, guys. You have a wonderful evening.
Thank you.
And give us a call.